talking about, slippery conditions inside stores or businesses on rainy days.
Those floors can get slick.
Yeah, and they can pose problems for customers and owners alike.
Sure do, and the law is a little different when it comes to what I call inclement weather conditions. As Grace was saying, we're going to have some rain in the next couple of days, and so it's important when you're walking into a store or a business to be careful where you're going. But the law is a little different. Normally, if you go into a business has a duty to keep their business in a reasonably safe condition, but when it's wet outside, the law gives you a little bit more responsibility. You've got to watch out for, say, rainwater on the floors, or particularly rainwater throughout the entire store. One of the things that the court said a long time ago is that a store owner doesn't have the responsibility to keep mopping the floor every time a new customer walks in. But if there is something unusual, in other words, if there is rainwater that is rushing in the store that causes you to fall, or if there is a massive amount of snow on the ground when you walk in, then that could be an issue. So every one of those situations can be different. You need to talk to somebody about.
We have a caller right now. Ray, are you there with your question?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead with your question.
If you enter into a contract with a builder and there's discrepancies and you must mediate, but he's non-responsive to any contact, and you take him directly to court.
Well, the answer to that question, Ray, is that one of the things is I got to see what the contract says. But normally in those contracts like that, you may have a couple of different clauses. One, you could have an arbitration provision, which means you agree that you don't want to try your dispute in front of a jury, but you actually hire a private judge to make a determination about who's right and who's wrong. And of course, another one is mediation. And mediation is a little different than arbitration. What that means is that you have a neutral person who goes between two different parties to try to get a dispute resolved. But when you're dealing with a contract, it's common to have an arbitration provision. And to answer your question, if the individual who you signed the contract with is not abiding by the terms of the contract, what you need to do at that point in time is go down to the circuit court or the courthouse and file a lawsuit. And then after that lawsuit is filed, the judge, if you ask for it, can order an arbitration or a mediation at that point in time. So the answer to your question is yes. If they're not responding to you and following the terms of the contract, that is something you can bring into court.
All right. Thank you for your call, Ray. Kim, good morning to you. You can go ahead with your question for Heath.
Oh, yes. I was just noticing y'all's on the TV, and I think they ought to put signs and stuff up in the stores and stuff when the floors are wet.
I agree. I agree, and actually the law requires you to do that. If a business owner is aware of or should have known about a hazard like a wet floor or something like that, they are required to put a sign up. I routinely deal with situations where the floors are wet, where the store owners had either mopped the floors, cleaned the floors, or there had been some water or a liquid that had been allowed to stay on the floor for a significant period of time, and there is no wet floor sign. And so somebody moving through the store has no idea. They slip, they fall, the ground comes really quick and can cause some really, really bad injuries. So you're right. They have a responsibility, store owners, to put a wet floor sign up if they should have known or are aware of a spill, or they created the spill.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, but I have to ask you this. What about water outside the main entrances? Do store owners have a responsibility to keep that area dry?
They sure can, and we've routinely dealt with situations like that. A store owner is responsible for keeping the entirety of the premises in a reasonably safe condition. And just basically, that's fancy legal terms for keep it safe. And if you know about or should have known about or created a hazard, whether it's inside or outside, warn folks about it. Or do the best that you can to get it cleaned up and warn somebody while you're cleaning it up. So the answer to your question is yes, you got to warn even if it's outside.